Colossal is a strange little film about a woman named Gloria, played by Anne Hathaway, who is an out-of-work party girl struggling with alcoholism and who, after getting kicked out of her boyfriend's apartment, is forced to leave her life in New York and move back to her unspecified middle American hometown. She ends up reuniting with her childhood friend Oscar, played by Jason Sudeikis, who now runs his late father's bar, and being the seemingly warm and welcoming guy he is, offers Gloria a job to work there as a waitress. Now, of course, being an alcoholic and working in a bar is not solving any problems, but what the hell else is she gonna do? Everything changes when news reports surface that a giant reptilian kaiju-like creature showed up in Seoul, South Korea, leaving death and destruction in its wake. Gloria gradually comes to the realization that when she walks through the playground at exactly 8:05 in the morning each day, she causes the monster to manifest for what appears like at least several minutes, the monster acting as a sort of avatar, her being in complete control of its movements. Events will start to spin out of control, and Gloria will have to figure out how to make things right on all fronts. Wow, it really seems like giant monsters are really not what they used to be, huh? They really softened up. Seems like certain filmmakers have figured out a way to use giant monsters in films in a way that's really refreshing and new, in a way that the monster doesn't feel like it's the main focus of the story, that might not even be the main threat or the actual threat. Rather, the monster might have the capability to influence human beings, or vice versa. Humans might have the capability to control or manipulate the monster. And they might many times serve more or less as a sort of metaphor for some sort of struggle the main character might be going through. In A Monster Calls, for example, it was made fairly clear that the big tree monster thingy was just a figment of the little boy's imagination. It was not in fact real. It serves as a sort of metaphor for his struggle to try and cope with the fact that he is going to lose his mother, who is dying of cancer, for his struggle to try and overcome this anguish and this sorrow and this grief he is feeling. It's a pretty good movie. It's a pretty straightforward coming-of-age story that I kind of wished had a little bit more tricks up its sleeve, and I kind of wished it had a little bit more of a dynamic tone, because that film is very bleak. It's not that I don't like bleak movies, but just the tone of that movie was a little bit too flat, if you know what I mean. And wouldn't you know it, just a couple of months later we get Colossal, a film that mixes so many different tones, like going from comedy to fantasy to drama and to thriller, that I was just wondering, like, could this film can get any more varied? And the reason why it works is that they keep the story incredibly simple, and at the same time they also keep it very much straightforward, but not in the way like A Monster Calls does. Quite the contrary, like, it's basically the opposite of that film, because I was just waiting for the moment for like the revelation that, okay, this big monster is just all in Anne Hathaway's head, is just all a figment of her imagination, possibly caused by her alcoholism. But guess what? No, this monster actually does exist. Every other character sees it, every other character acknowledges it. But I guess the film knew exactly what someone like me would come to expect from it and just went, aha, fuck you, I'm going to do something completely different. And I really don't think there's any doubt that the monster within the story of the film truly does exist. It ultimately does serve or might serve as a metaphor for something outside of the film, for us, for the spectators. But I don't think it's alcoholism necessarily, or it might not just be alcoholism. I think it's a combination of maybe alcoholism and something much more sinister, abuse and possessiveness. It's the latter half of the film where the very quirky and strange and comedic quality of the film really takes a back seat, and it is revealed that her very good friend Oscar, who she trusted and who came to her aid when she needed it, is actually an alcoholic too, and is actually like the worst type of alcoholic. He is a very abusive and possessive and manipulative and dangerous type. And when it is revealed that he also has this sort of avatar, like this giant robot he can control if going on the playground, you probably know that things are going to get a little tense. Tonally, the film rather quickly makes this 180 turn and becomes quite serious and dark, and that might be the point where many viewers might get turned off by this movie, just by how somber it becomes, especially in comparison to the first half, which is very lighthearted. And it might also seem a little unbelievable, how this guy who is just the nicest guy ever can turn into this horrible fiend in a heartbeat. But it really worked for me because of the backstory, even though we got a very little of it, but it definitely worked for me. I thought it was handled with great care, and the fact that it happens so suddenly really didn't bother me. In fact, I thought it worked because I'm going to confess something. I have experience with alcoholics, and the thing is that really is how it happens. I mean, from one moment in which they can seem like they're just the kindest people ever, literally the next moment, they want nothing else but to cause pain and suffering, and they are willing to do and say some pretty awful things just to blackmail you and to manipulate you into sticking by them, and you do stick by them even though your instincts are telling you not to. And that's just how the way it happens. And I'm pretty depressed that I know that, actually, but it's something that made me appreciate this movie more, because I know that this movie is representing this sort of thing in a very realistic fashion, so to speak. At least as realistic as giant monsters and giant robots get. I mean, the film I really think is ultimately about trying to be responsible and about trying to be careful about the way you treat other people. I mean, you might treat other people in a certain manner and it might not seem like anything incredibly significant to you, but in fact you might be destroying another person's life. And it all depends on just how much power you have, and this idea just taken to monster mashup proportions, It's a giant monster walking around in the city. It might not seem like he is causing any harm, it might not seem like that to him, but to the people around him he is stepping on, it's a pretty fucking big deal. I really thought this movie worked. I really thought all the pieces just fell into place. I really thought they managed to mix genres in a way as to not make a gigantic convoluted mess. So pretty good. Both main actors, Jason Sudeikis but especially Anne Hathaway, finally won me over for the very first time in their careers. Now, I always liked these actors, but I never really liked the characters they played. I never really liked the movies they played in, but in this one, man, finally they did it. They won me over. They played these very layered characters, very damaged, very real, very determined, and Anne Hathaway especially is just an absolute darling in this. I mean, wow, I couldn't have imagined she had it in her. So one last thing, something that left me a little bit confused, is why exactly South Korea. But the only thing I could come up with is that it might have something to do with this running gag we see in cartoons, is that if you dig underground, you're in the States, you're gonna come out in China, because China is basically on the other end of the other side of the globe. But that's not really true, is it? Because if you look closely, here are the United States, and here is China, South Korea, whatever. And yeah, I guess you can say it's on the complete opposite end. But if you go completely through the Earth, you're gonna end up in the Indian Ocean. So I don't really know. I kind of thought initially that it might be about something else. It might be about maybe the way American culture, pop culture, might be having a negative, destructive effect on Asian culture, South Korean culture in particular. But I really don't think that's what this film is trying to talk about. So I would definitely recommend Colossal. It might not be for everyone. If you want to watch a pure comedy, might not be for you. If you want to watch a giant monster movie where monsters and robots just duke it out, still might not be for you. Watch Pacific Rim instead. If you want to watch a drama, still probably wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to watch a combination of all of these things with a very endearing main character and some very good performances all around, then I would definitely recommend it. Unfortunately, this film doesn't seem to be making any money, which is a fucking shame, because creative and independent directors who are absolutely capable of making entertaining and commercially viable films are not making money. Their films are not being seen. That's really a shame. I really wouldn't want to see films like this not get made anymore, but that's just the world we live in. But hey, at least we got another Fast and the Furious this year, because God knows we all needed another one of those. Thanks for watching my review, folks. As always, I will see you later with other reviews. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can see you later with other reviews. Bye.